Now, in the case of Hudaybiyah, now I'm going with the logic of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani to give you another angle of looking at it. When Abdullah Asim did not die, what was the result? Obviously, people of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, including his close relative, including the people who were who organized that debate, including the people who nominated Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, the people of Jandiala, to come and do the debate on their behalf. This was Ridda. There was a mass Ridda. And the Christian missionaries, are you with me? The Christian missionaries, they hired an elephant, and Abdullah Atham was riding that elephant, and they were in the streets of Amritsar. They were saying, Mirza ki aisi gat banayenge, sare ilham bhool jayenge. This is history. They were chanting in the street that we are going to teach Mirza such a lesson that he will forget his quote unquote revelations. Okay. And they made Adnan, what is called a putla banaya. What is that called?
Statue.
Yeah. They made some sort of statue of Mirza Ghulam
Or
Qadiani to
dummy. You can call it a dummy. Like
dummy.
a dummy statue.
Yeah. You people know, that this putla banana or the dummy something, they made something of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, and they were humiliating Mirza Ghulam Qadiani in the streets of Amritsar, right? And after that, nothing happened. This episode ended like that. Is it the case of Hudaybiyah? Wallahi, people, Wallah, subhanallah, are your hearts really sealed? Think about it. Is this the case with Hudaybiyah? Hudaybiyah, Allah is declaring this first year of Adnan Bhai and myself, we are repeatedly saying, and Hakim Nuruddin agrees with us, it is the journey of first year, which is the foundation of Fath Mubin for Islam. What it has to do with all of the humiliation Mirza Ghulam Qadiani received? What is because he was using this particular event to justify his humiliation and to make his people think that as though as it has happened to the Prophet. And subhanallah, not only just any prophet, na'uzubillahi min zalik, he fabricated a lie on Sardarul Anbiya, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And you still want to be angry at myself and Ustadna Rashid bhai? What else we can show to you? Now, last part is, we are still in the first technique, by the way, okay? Now, the last part is still remaining. What is the last part? How Qadiani clerics are using this technique. Let me, inshallah, complete this bit as well, okay? Now, by the way, I have skipped many things here. Okay, how Murabbis using this tactic? In a nutshell, they would say that whatever Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has written, on which you have some objection, same has been written by such and such scholar or a Sufi. This is a lesser version of Minhajul Nubuwah, because Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was comparing most of the time, and I'll give you the reason as well, himself with the Prophet. Okay, but now these Qadiani Murabbis, subhanallah, without realizing the implications, they are using a lesser version of Minhajul Nubuwah, in which they are comparing Mirza Ghulam Qadiani with the other scholars and Sufis, i.e., as in the case of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, when someone was pointing out something, he would point out the same thing in other prophets. Nauzubillah. Now Qadiani Rabbis are, what are they doing? When you point out something, they would open up the books of different scholars or Sufis, and they would give this impression as though as what Mirza has said, same is written by these scholars. So same technique. Either you drop objection against Mirza, or you have to reject these scholars as well. Now, this is their lesser version of Minhajul Nubuwah. Now, let me comment on that. Don't take my opinion. I will use Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is going to teach a lesson virtually today to its Murabbis, okay? To his Murabbis. Look at this one. Basically, point number one is, when Muslims, let me make it a bit smaller. Yeah. When Muslim scholars were refuting Mirza Ghulam Qadiani by using writings of other Muslim scholars, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said the following. Right now, Qadiani Murabbis are using the writings of Muslim scholars to justify Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Are you with me? In the lifetime of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, when Muslim scholars were using the other scholars, the big scholars, big Mufassirun, to refute Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, what did he say? Watch this. Volume 18 of Ruhani Khazain, page number 424. Mirza says to Muslim scholars, Tafsir Barghani, तिबरानी, अबू नईम वगैरह का हवाला देना या उनकी रिवायतें गैर मुसहहा पेश करना एक मुद्दई इमामत के बिल मुकाबिल जिसका दावा हो कि मैं हकम होकर कुरान मजीद और रसूल करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की अजमत कायम करने दुनिया में आया हूँ, अपने ऊपर जहालत का इल्जाम कायम करने से ज्यादा नतीजा खेज नहीं हो सकता. Mirza says, if you are going to quote to me in order to refute me, Tafsir of Burghani, Tibrani, Abu Naim, these are different books of Abu Naim's riwayat, okay? He said, if you are going to quote all of these scholars in order to refute me, or you are going to use, so there are two things. One is that using these tafasir, or using the riwayat which Mirza Ghulam Qadiani declared to be unauthentic, okay? He says that, how can you use all of that in contrast to someone who is claimant of imama, who is claimant of being a Muslim leader appointed by Allah, Hakam or Adal, okay? He says that I am someone who's leader of Muslims I am the Hakam appointed by Allah. How can you quote to me all of these different scholars? And if you are still doing that, it is your ignorance and nothing else. Basically, look at this one. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is not allowing the Muslim scholars to quote any of those big scholars in order to refute Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Why? He said, I am appointed by Allah. Is it not the same point we are asking the Qadiani Murabbis? That your guy Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is claiming to be appointed by Allah. In order to justify his thing, on what basis, under what principle you can quote all of these books? Because Mirza Ghulam Qadiani did not allow them to quote against him, right? Let's check more. Ruhani Khazain, same volume 18, page 424. Mirza said about himself, ना वो हनफी है, ना शाफी है, ना मालकी है, ना हम्बली है, ना जाफरी है, ना मुकल्लिद है, ना अहले हदीस है। फिर आप हनफियों, शाफियों, मालिकियों वगैरह के उलमा या मुफस्सिरीन के अकवाल पेश करके इसको मुल्ज़म क्यों कर सकते हैं? अगर वो इन अकवाल का पाबंद हो तो मनसब इमामत दर हकीकत इसके लिए सजावार नहीं है। वो दावा करता है कि मैं इस वक्त का हकम हूँ। सुभान अल्लाह, लुक एट द क्लैरिटी ऑफ कोटेशन। मिर्जा गुलाम कादियानी सेज, I am not a Hanafi or a Shafi'i or a Maliki or a Hanbali or a Jafari or a Mukallid or a Ahli Hadith. And then he said, I am none of them. And then he says, then how come that you are going to quote the tafasir, the Quranic exegetical work of the Hanafi, Shafi'i or Maliki scholars, and and through that you want to prove me wrong? Mirza says that if I was bound, Mirza says, if I was bound by the sayings of these scholars, then I do not deserve to be the divinely appointed leader and hakam of Muslims, for which I am claiming to be. So basically, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani did not allow Muslim scholars to use any of the Muslim works against him. Why? He said that, look at my position. I am a God appointed. I am the hakam. I am the ruler made by Allah, quote unquote, made by Allah. So you cannot use. Now I ask the common Ahmadi, if that is the principle, first of all, have they ever told you this? That these things cannot be used either to refute or to justify Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. And that is the reason. We are not primarily quoting all of these books. We are quoting primarily, okay, two things. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's own writings or the writings of Jamaat which are officially conveyed to its community. We are using these two things. Why? Because these two things are binding on them. Now, so did you get this point? So if we are not allowed to use these scholars to refute Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, how are you justified to use these scholars to justify Mirza Ghulam Qadiani? Right? Now, there are still some deceptions they can play. Let me inshallah deal with them as well. So look at this point B. How someone else's mistake would justify MGA's position. I mean, for example, let me give you a concrete example. If any of the Sufis, they have come up with the idea of some sort of buruz, right? And now Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has come up with the idea of buruz. So what happens is, when we ask them to bring from Quran's qat'i ayah, definite ayah of the Quran, or authentic hadith to prove the concept of buruz as Mirza Ghulam Qadiani explained, what do? Oh, Ibn Arabi has used this. Oh, Shah Waliullah has used this. Wait a second. They all made mistakes. So what? Are you saying that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was quoting their mistakes? If that is the case, why are you telling people that your case is based in Quran and Sunnah? Because when we debate with you guys, what is being revealed is that your case is rooted in the books of Sufis. You have to accept it. I mean, first you need to accept. Either you need to drop your lofty claim that your case is on Quran and Sunnah. Drop that claim. And then inshallah, let's come to the Sufi books. And guess what? If once you drop that claim, I give you this promise, inshallah, sitting here online. If you drop this claim and you make this public statement that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's case is based on the writings of previous Sufis and Muslim scholars, after that, I promise I will prove to you that whatever they have written has nothing to do with Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's point of view. These are two different things. But before that, you need to make a statement. You need to take a position. You want to play on the both sides of the wicket. On the one hand, you want to give this impression that as though as your case is rooted in Quran and Sunnah. If that is the case, from Quran and Sunnah, if that is the case, prove from Quran and Sunnah the Aqidah of Buruz. If Aqidah of Buruz cannot be proven, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has no case. Why? Because no Buruz Muhammadi can come. There's no such thing to begin with, right? So this is the game they are playing, that they want to use other scholars, but they don't want to make this statement that our case is based in the books of those Sufis, not in the Quran and Sunnah. Okay, point number C. Statement of any scholar or a Sufi is not binding on any Muslim. Because these statements, and you may be thinking, oh, because they cannot defend them, they're just trying to, throw them under the bus. No, not at all. You go and ask, for example, obviously most of the time, all of these things are between two, you can say, Sunni schools of law. Either the Ahlul Hadith or the Hanafi. Most of the time, these things are about them. Go and ask any Hanafi that when it comes to the matters of Aqidah, the principle, the usul fi deen is statement of any scholar, hujjah or binding. Subhanallah, they are so strict that at times, one of the position in the Hanafi school, for example, is that they would not even take khabar wahid, i.e., the authentic saying of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is less than mutawatir, less than the mass transmission. They would not even take that one for aqidah. And you want to tell people that these sayings of the scholars or the Sufis are the base of their aqidah? That's dishonesty. Because when we are quoting Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, he is your prophet. He is binding on you. And none of these scholars are binding on any Muslim in their own capacity until and unless they bring something from Quran and Sunnah. And this is agreed upon, regardless of somebody does taqleed of an Aima or someone is not doing taqleed of the Aima. This is agreed upon that you have to bring from Quran and Sunnah something that is without shadow of a doubt. Only that can be the basis of Aqidah. Okay, point number D is rejecting a scholar on any matter and rejecting a prophet of Allah. Are they one and the same thing? Because you are using this principle, quote unquote, subhanAllah, these people have no principles. Absolute inconsistency. Because if you want to compare these scholars and Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, are you accepting the principle that rejecting the scholar, any scholar on any matter, and rejecting a prophet of Allah, which Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is claiming to be, are they one and the same thing? If they are not, and surely they are not, why are you using them? Next point. In doing so, are Murabbis really addressing the objection? That is the key point. For example, in the past 4-5 weeks, what is the discussion? That Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says that there are two advent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if someone does not believe in this aqidah, this person is disbelieving in the Quran. Number one. And then he says he is the second advent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, instead of giving us the Quranic ayat or authentic ahadith to prove this one, what are they doing? Shah Waliullah said this said this, that guy said this. I want common Ahmadis to ask yourself this question. Are they really addressing the problem? Are they really addressing the objection? Because the objection is, hey guys, your claim is that your aqidah, because this is the whole claim you are making. You are telling people that the entire Muslim ummah, everybody was misguided. And then somehow Mirza Ghulam Qadiani appears and he does the interpretation of the Quran and he revives the religion. But guess what? When we put Mirza Ghulam Qadiani in the corner and ask him the question, what do? You don't bring Quran, you don't bring Sunnah, you bring those scholars according to you who are misguided. Subhanallah, where is consistency? So this is what I'm saying is, this is the lesser version of Minhajul Nabuwah used by these Murabbis, in which they are bringing different quotations of Islamic scholars and Sufis. Why? In order to justify what Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has written.